Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey there guys, Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well, and welcome to my Bad Batch Season 2 Episode 4 review. We're gonna hop right on into it. It should go without saying that yes, there are spoilers ahead, so if you haven't all been caught up to with everything that's going on with the Bad Batch, click off the video now, go check it out. It's honestly really quite fantastic and very action-packed. I've been loving it so far. That all being said, this is no exception. Another great action-packed episode here. In this video, I want to take a read from fan-sided dorksideoftheforce.com. I agree with a lot of the stuff that they say here in their article. I'm going to have it linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there as well. And also stay tuned towards the end of the video as we're going to discuss the, well, end of the episode, because that seems to be a little bit of a, I guess, turnaround there for what we could expect to see in the future going forward with this season. As I read, not every episode of a TV series can be advancing the main plot lines, push our expectations, or even be overly stupendously fascinating. In the instance of Faster, Episode 4, Season 2, of the Bad Batch, we have a solid episode that gives finally Tech his time to shine while providing a fun take on what we all know as pod racing ought to be. And in many ways, the Bad Batch Season 2 Episode 4 titled Faster is a nod towards Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, easily, with all of its pod racing scenes, and the excitement that the pod racing scenes instill in the fans. The Bad Batch's newest episode does bring a little bit more of the deadly favor, however, adding weapons and shielding to an already fatal mix that can be dangerously on tracks of high-speed racing. However, for this instance, most of the racers are just droids, even Cid's more than slightly annoyed with her racer Teo. In The Phantom Menace, we hear Qui-Gon comment that you need Jedi reflexes to be able to compete as a human in pod racing. While Tech may be a genius, he certainly doesn't have Jedi abilities, but at least that could explain why most people are using droids. There's that, and also not wanting having humans die, well, a horrible, painfully death. Beyond pod racing, we do get a few key insights into the growth of the team. First and foremost, Tech is finally getting a piece of the action, and not just the guy in the chair. We can also see Tech making decisions to go on the defensive, and that instinct to be defensive seems to be one of Tech's patterns. We also see the loyalty of the Bad Batch, but when even gangsters are warning you that Cid cannot be trusted, as we see towards the end of this episode, perhaps you, well, should listen. We still don't know much about Cid's past, but it does seem that some of the skeletons in Cid's closet may come to haunt the Bad Batch sooner rather than later. And in terms of how this episode fits into the show as, well, a whole, this would seem to be what most people would call a filler episode. I don't really think that this episode did nothing for the plot, but unfortunately, the progress it makes is glacial. And in other words, simply very slow moving. It's really towards the end of the episode that really gets me going about having this, I guess so, overall plot moving forward here, with Cid especially. She's just kind of like there, tells the Bad Batch what to do. This is something, a common repeating pattern that we saw exactly with the first season of the show. She's just kind of there, tells the Bad Batch what to go do, and they go do it, and that's kind of like it. And so what it seems as though is that the overall show is setting Cid to be up more of a bad guy here going forward here, and that she's going to be, well, really just a backstabber for the Bad Batch. Which I am really, quite honestly, beyond excited to see. However, with how that happens, it's not exactly really completely known. One theory that I may have is that maybe the Empire does find out that the Clone Force 99 is still alive and out there, and that being said, they are offering high rewards for them to be turned in which Cid maybe hires her own bounty hunters, potentially Boba Fett or maybe Bosk, to turn the Bad Batch into the Empire. We do get a sentence worth of warning about Cid, and Tech gets his day in the limelight. And really neither of these things are, well, bad, but on their own, it reflects some of the slower episodes we saw in Season 1 of the Bad Batch. The storytelling is well done, of course, and the new species are interesting, but it seems like this episode could have just done a little bit more in terms of delivering more of the long-term storylines, such as what's going on with Cody, Commander Hauser, Captain Rex, and the rest of the Bad Batch. Now from there, that is where the article concludes, and as I had mentioned at the beginning of this video, I have this article linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there as well. I want to re-emphasize on the idea of having, like, these gangsters, these, like, what ought to be bad guys here, that are thought out to be bad guys, the main bad guys here, essentially, are even warning the rest of the Bad Batch about Cid and what they have kind of gone through in the past with Cid, or have seen her do in the past to her own team members here. And so to say that this is something that's completely random, I don't really think is completely necessarily fair. This has kind of been an ongoing theory ever since Season 1, ever since the Bad Batch met Cid in Season 1 of the show. Fans, of course, have had their own share of ideas and theories and speculations and just suspicions overall about Sid, what she might pull in the future, and I think that in this season we'll finally see that come true. Overall, an amazing episode. I can't wait to see more of where this overall show and season is going to go. The first 3 episodes did a lot with setting up all the characters, of course, and big long-term storylines essentially that we've been seeing ever since season 1, such as Crosshair, but now adding in the mixture of Commander Cody. I'm really beyond excited and interested to see where on earth this guy is going to go in the future. And I touched on it in our last review video here on the channel about the Bad Batch season 2. It was episode 3, of course, the one that revolved around Crosshair and Commander Cody, and towards the end of that episode, we learned from Rampart, Officer Rampart, a part of the Empire, saying that Cody went AWOL and essentially left the Empire. And we're going to see that more and more with the clones going forward, a clone uprising essentially. However, to see them fight back is something that a lot of Star Wars fans would like to see. How that's going to be done, we just don't know. It's up in the air. And even at that, it is something that we've talked about here on the channel previously before, and I've heard plenty of other Star Wars fans discuss and talk about a clone uprising in the Bad Batch. It does feel like it would be something that would be more minimal, since in every other piece of Star Wars media and content, especially for the movies, we never hear about a clone uprising, and even in other shows as well. And on top of that, lastly, I'm beyond interested to see like what on earth Hunter and Echo were really up to. I would love to hear more about that. However, to say the least, it really does sound that the two were really just on a mission, like a minimal type of mission, just kind of out doing whatever for Sid. And I also feel like that is something that was discussed in the first couple of episodes, the first 2 episodes of the Bad Batch, seeing that this isn't the life that they want for Omega or even for themselves, essentially just being like slaves to Sid. Yeah, sure, they're getting paid, of course, but they just do whatever and anything that they like, that she wants them to do, pretty much, which is really quite depressing. And even dare do I say myself here, it's something that can even be related to the rest of the real world, even at that. It's something that Star Wars isn't shy of, that they've done plenty of before, in the sense that workers in the real world will do whatever their job says for them to do, and they're essentially like slaves to their 9 to 5. And so I think in a way that we're kind of seeing that reflected here in the Star Wars universe, with Sid being the main boss here, telling the Bad Batch to do this and do that, and they simply just kind of listen and they just do whatever she wants them to do. Anyway, aside from all of that, an amazing episode to say the least, action-packed as I had mentioned. Sure, it doesn't move all the main plot lines forward, such as what's going on with Hunter and Echo. I'm not necessarily sure like why they didn't include those two in this episode anywhere, because it's an animated show. There's nothing that's really needed for a bottle cap episode, essentially, where you have an episode that is a lower budget, especially when all of these characters are voiced by the same guy. However, it definitely does give Tech and Wrecker and Omega some time to shine here as well. I want to know of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I would love to hear you guys all think about this episode faster, episode 4, season 2 of the Bad Batch. So, comment down below. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars, and thank you so much for watching today's video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one, guys. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.